Welcome to the Reel Rematch, the podcast where we unpack Hollywood's twin films, sometimes cloned on purpose, sometimes by accident, but always in competition. Today's matchup, King's Death Games, The Running Man versus The Long Walk, two Stephen King adaptations throwing ordinary people into brutal public survival contests, where endurance means everything and failure means death. One turns society into a high-octane televised blood sport built on spectacle and rebellion. The other traps its contestants in a slow, merciless march where every step could be their last. Which film delivered the sharper dystopian nightmare? Which one captured the cruelty of survival entertainment most powerfully? And which death game ultimately leaves the deepest psychological scars once the contest is over?
So, Jeff.
Justin, how are you?
Good. I'm excited that we have two contemporary films, both from 2025.
Yes, so the year of Stephen King, perhaps. We're going to look at two film adaptations of some of his novels. We're going to do The Running Man and The Long Walk.
So the strange thing is that The Running Man and The Long Walk didn't just arrive in the same year. They arrived in the year The Running Man was originally set. Nearly 40 years after the Schwarzenegger version, the King's future is no longer the future, it's actually the present. And almost at the same moment, The Long Walk finally reaches cinemas after decades of failed attempts. That's not really a shared universe. It's something more interesting. To Buckman, Stephen King's pseudonym when he was writing these two novels, nightmares becoming commercially legible at the exact same moment audiences are primed by things like Squid Game. The Hunger Games, reality TV, inequality, surveillance, authoritarian anxiety, all these things are converging to make this really a fertile environment for which audiences would be, hungry for, this type of story to be told.
Sure.
So it boils down to this. The Running Man is the 2025 prophecy film. The Long Walk is the long-delayed Buckman reckoning. Together, they make 2025, as you mentioned, feel like the year that Stephen King's Death Game America finally arrived on screen.
Yes, it's very, very interesting. So now, as you mentioned there, Justin, obviously these are Stephen King novels, but written under his pseudonym, or as you called him when we were before starting, nom de plume. Very nice use of that word. So he wrote as Richard Buckman, obviously, sometimes because he just had so much in his head, but he also wrote slightly different novels for Buckman. So Buckman's voice it's a lot leaner, it's a lot nastier, it's more pessimistic, and it's more system focused than a lot of the mainstream King novels and short stories that we're all used to. So, yeah, I'm not sure why. Do you know why he was doing, extra stuff?
Well, you mentioned something there is that when he was coming of age as a writer, I think the prevailing logic was you could only release one book a year. Otherwise, you become a pulpy writer or more commercial, and the value of your product would be diminished. Whether real or imagined, apparently that was the prevailing thought.
Right.
So he had so many stories. He needed to introduce a new writer to be able to release these stories. He just had too much going on above his shoulders, Jeff.
Right.
Too many stories to tell, and Richard Buckman was born.
There you go. Okay. So there's been 8 Richard Buckman novels since he started writing, so going many, many years, starting in 1977 with Rage, which was the first one. Mm-hmm. The Long Walk came out in 79. You've got Roadwork in 1981. Then you've got the Running Man novel in 1982, followed by Thinner in 1984. Then in 1985, those first 4 novels mentioned were put together as what was called the Buckman books. Mm-hmm. Then there was an 11-year gap until The Regulators in 1996, followed by another 11-year gap until 2007 when Blaze came out. So they're the 8 Buckman novels.
Now, didn't he actually write both The Running Man and The Long Walk a lot earlier than when they were published?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. The Long Walk was the first novel Stephen King ever actually wrote. So he wrote it when he was at the University of Maine. He was just 19. This was in 1966, 1967, but it wasn't published until 1979, which is probably to do with becoming more of a name or building his own brand. And at that point, it was worth publishing. So And The Running Man as well, he wrote the original draft of this in less than a week in February 1973. So possibly foreshadowing Misery, he was snowed in a trailer with his family somewhere during a school vacation, and he managed to complete the first draft in 3 days, 72 hours. So
wow,
that's an amazing turnaround for The Running Man.
it's incredible. And the timing's interesting because there's certainly a reaction to Vietnam.
Yes.
Right? So with The Long Walk in particular, more so than The Running Man. The Running Man's still a little bit of the sort of like state-sponsored sort of entertainment as violence because it was the first televised war.
Yeah.
And otherwise, but certainly that element of conscription and these young men sort of engaging at the time for a large percentage of the American population in exercise of futility. That was seemingly an endless death march.
Yes.
So really fascinating. So let's give a tease to the scorecard.
Okay.
We'll hit all the key scorecard components of our evaluation at the very end of the episode, but let's talk about the premise. On the bones of the story, these are strikingly close. You have young or working class bodies being fed into this state-sanctioned death machine, right? Or death game for public consumption. One turns into a media spectacle chase. The other turns into a ritual of endurance and annihilation. So both are amazing premises.
Yes.
I couldn't really split the two. I'm going to award that category a draw.
Okay.
But we're doing these films today because they are twin films about Stephen King turning competition into state violence.
Yes, that's right. So The Running Man feels like a media spectacle, which obviously in this modern day and age is more prevalent than ever before. So its whole engine is performance. The death game is not just a punishment, it's a programming, it's a televised event built around ratings and branding and charisma of the host and the everyone involved in the game. There's the conversion of human desperation into that entertainment, which gives the film the scale and the pace and the satirical surface. Even if the critics were split on how much thematic heft that survived from the original adaptation. But then you look at The Long Walk, which, as you said, feels like an endurance death march, right? It's built on subtraction. There's no elaborate arena. There's no flamboyant hunters or hosts. It's no constantly refreshed gimmicks. It's just one road, one rule, and bodies falling in public. And that simplicity is what makes it brutal. Like reviewers have repeatedly singled out that its bleakness, the psychological pressure and the emotional toll are the strengths of this film. So, yeah, two very interesting things that 40 years later are still very much at the forefront of the modern day and age.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating, right? So really happy to be doing this episode today. And it's interesting as well, and we'll touch on this later in the episode, but, the genesis or the inspiration for this concept has been around for a long time, right? Back to the 30s, but we'll touch on that a little bit later.
Sure.
Why don't we jump into the meat and potatoes of the episode and run the numbers for us, Jeff?
All right, so two interesting box office results here I found. The Long Walk was released first. It was released wide, 2,845 screens in September 12th, 2025. Opening weekend, it took 11.7 million, ended its domestic run with about 35, just over 35. Overseas, it did some similar numbers, taking another 27.7 million. So it ended its worldwide run with about $62.9, $63 million.
Right.
Which from a very small $20 million budget is a 3.2x return for the studio. Not bad. The Running Man also went wide, opening on more than 3,500 screens on November 14th, 2025. Its opening weekend was 16.5 million, and domestically it ended with a similar run as Long Walk of 37.8. Overseas taking another 30 million, so it ended with internationally a $68.5 million total.
Okay.
However, unfortunately, its production budget was a rather steeper $110 million. And combined with its marketing budget, the film actually lost Paramount more than $100 million. So,
ouch.
Which is a bit unfortunate, but you never can tell sometimes with these kind of shows.
You know what? When I watched this film, and it was the first time I'd actually watched this film it was actually for the pod. I hadn't seen it previously.
Yeah.
I didn't have a huge level of interest in actually seeing it because I had such fond affection of, the 87 Schwarzenegger version. But I think part of what makes that Schwarzenegger version so awesome, for my sensibilities at least, is it had this, gritty, grimy, sort of let's make do a little bit, sort of like more handcrafted versus a beautiful artifice, not unlimited budget, but, massive budget, painting with really, really sort of, huge canvas, and, you could have a million explosions and other things happening in the background. I like the contained nature of the first one. And I appreciate it wasn't, as faithful to the source material. But there was something that I felt was missing in, the Glen Powell movie that obviously we're reviewing today.
Yeah.
And maybe it's as simple as saying sometimes less is more, because I felt on this one here, more is more.
Yeah.
Like the one caveat to that where I thought there was this, like, I don't know how long the stretch was, but 7 minutes, 8 minutes, maybe as long as 10 minutes. That was absolutely amazing cinema, was when Glen Powell's character goes into the TV studio to do the testing.
Yep.
To see if he is a worthwhile candidate, or which show should he be like moved towards and otherwise.
Yeah.
Right through to him getting deployed into the game zone.
Yeah.
That's almost unassailable filmmaking for mine. It's just like, because I just watching that, it's just like, wow. If the film had have been able to, keep that intensity and otherwise, this would have been one of the greatest, sci-fi action films of all time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't quite get there for me, but there was a lot to like. But like, that's why, I had to think back as to, it wasn't just Arnie in his prime, but why did I love the first one so much, right? And it was, it was like sort of like down and dirty, and, just the fact that there was only like a handful of locations. Like there was the studio room where Damon Killian and all the producers are sitting around.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it felt a little bit more personality based. Like, the character playing Killian, he was amazing. I love that guy so much, right? And then Josh Brolin, and that was it. You didn't really kind of get a sense of the studio architecture and, suits in the background and the other people that you're not seeing, and what have you. So I don't know. There was just something about.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I agree. I mean, to me, probably, I think it was a little bit too long as well. I think maybe which is probably part of your point to a degree. Is that some of it, if it had been shorter, it might have been better, right?
Yeah, and there was the moments where you had, Michael Cera's character, and I loved him in the film, and I loved some of the sequences in that film, but like a bit of the lead up to that, a bit of that in and of itself, and then some of the stuff after that, it just felt that felt a bit flabby.
Yeah.
Right? Like when he's out in sort of like the desolate, sort of like farmland or just open spaces of, what I assume is Maine. The story drags a bit. Yeah. But like the lead up, the game zone when he's in there, then there's that really nice tight part where him and Michael Cera are escaping, when, the forces come in, they're trying to, they're really trying to swap them out of existence.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. But yeah, it just gets a bit flabby. Even then when, he meets the girl and she's on the car, like it was like, surely something could have been done to take out, help me out, 15 minutes?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's 2 hours and 10 minutes or something, this film. I mean,
probably should have come in an hour 59.
Yeah. Agree. Yeah. Just
something
slightly.
like that.
Just under. 119 minutes. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Just give it a trim. And I mean, there's a lot to like, and they did, good stuff in the film, but it just felt, it didn't quite get there.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. Yeah. And it was interesting because obviously the audience at large felt the same way.
Yeah.
Right. But the long walk though, I really did enjoy, and that's a film that should have felt longer than it was, but I thought the pacing was excellent, and not once did I get distracted or a little bit, I don't know, frustrated, bored, throw in a few words there at all. I was riveted. I thought it was just a simple story told well with, two really compelling leads.
Yeah.
And I've got to be honest, I took a small amount of joy seeing Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, it's like acting in that going, yep, he's certainly got some of his dad in him. And which is amazing because what an amazing gift that is to, the film going and TV, sort of watching audiences and otherwise, because at least, again, for mine, Philip Seymour Hoffman was one of the greatest actors of his generation.
Oh, yeah, and look at how much we love Capote when we talked about it on a previous episode. So, and I'm sure he'll show up in another episode at some point down the track, right? So, but I agree. I think it was, again, very simple. It's just literally boys walking down a road, but you were on edge because from the moment the first kid is killed.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, spoiler alert. Someone dies in the film.
A Stephen King film where someone dies.
Yeah.
What?
From the very moment, that first one, which is brutal in itself, and the fact that it's the youngest kid who clearly has done, which again is a Vietnam trope, has lied about his age to get in here, right? Which we know hundreds of American kids did during the Vietnam War. Lied about his age to get in, gets caught out. Something's going to happen because it's part of the premise, but it's not literally until he falls in the road, everyone does it, and just out of nowhere, side of the head, boom, right? And that was brutal and shocking, and you suddenly realised, holy shit, this is what's happening in this film, right? And I think that for me, that's what kept it taut and pressurised, and then even though the conversations varied from talking about girls to life to incidents in there, it didn't matter because all those connected those boys, which connected them to the fact that if they didn't help each other, this brutality would face every single one of them.
And, let's dig a little bit deeper earlier than we usually do. So I think the other thing for The Long Walk that really kind of sets it apart, right, is I thought the big bad was better than the big bad and if you had to separate it, you've got Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
Right? Playing the general, is that what he is?
The major?
Or the major?
The colonel?
Colonel. Some military rank.
Yeah.
Right? Versus, Josh Brolin's Killian.
Yeah.
Right? I couldn't get past his ceramic veneers or whatever was going, or porcelain veneers, whatever was going on with his teeth.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh, that new?
Yeah.
But Mark Hamill, they kind of use the shark in Jaws.
Yeah.
Right? You don't see him very often, but then he's just got this, this menacing nature about him because, you think about, hang on, this is the guy overseeing this exercise, which is one of the most brutal things I've ever seen. It's just all right, so we're going to, to your point, the reduction, right? We're going to start with 100.
Yeah.
One of you's going to live and then you're going to have a pretty decent life.
Yeah.
The rest of you, well,
basically, yeah.
Right? So just incredible. So I enjoy both films, but I love The Long Walk a lot more than I thought I was going in because I read the premise.
Yeah.
And it's sounds great.
It just seems like it actually doesn't sound like a cinematic premise at all.
100%, yeah.
Right?
It's almost it feels like if you think of, the Running Man where, the Schwarzenegger version where they've got the advertisements for some of the other game shows. And they do the same thing in here where it's climbing for dollars or whatever. They also do something similar in RoboCop.
Yeah.
Right? It almost feels like it should have been an advertisement or interstitial component of a larger film.
Yeah.
Right? Not a full-blown feature film.
Yeah.
But it works incredibly well.
Yeah, it does.
So let's jump into these. The other thing that surprised me is this, and let's just jump into this. Do you have anything further to break down, or do you want me to?
From the numbers? No, that was it from, there isn't really, I haven't found anything in regards to DVD figures because it's not as prevalent in this day and age. So
physical media.
Yeah, physical media.
No longer a thing.
That's right.
The other thing that surprised me is that obviously The Running Man was directed by Edgar Wright.
Yep.
Now, in some circles, I think he's referred to as the equivalent of the Quentin Tarantino of the UK, given his encyclopedic knowledge of all things cinema, right? And his great love for things. And he can get right into the weeds and really obscure titles that maybe 16 people, would actually be familiar with, right?
Yeah.
And I've really enjoyed a lot of his movies. I mean, in the lead up to this film, right, he does Baby Driver in 2017.
Yep.
He does the music documentary, The Sparks Brothers.
Yep.
And the movie Last Night in Soho in 2021, right? Then he does this in 2025. Now, I haven't seen the music documentary. Baby Driver, I think, is amazing.
Yep.
And probably the last time we'll ever see Kevin Spacey in a big film.
Yes.
Last Night in Soho, I actually really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of a COVID film, so I think it went straight to streaming. But there was a lot to like in that film, and I wouldn't go as far as saying I'm a fan, but I acknowledge that as a really worthwhile entry into his film oeuvre.
Yeah.
So he's best known for the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy that consisted of 3 out-and-out bangers. You got Shaun of the Dead in 2004, Hot Fuzz in 2007, and The World's End in 2013. So you think, with a director of that caliber, with a title that we both have fond affection of because of, probably our love of the Arnie movie, what could go wrong?
Exactly.
Little bit.
Yeah.
But, you've then got cast and crew, right? Well, let's cast. Glen Powell, and I'm just going to say right now, this is peak Powell, right? I mean, he rips off Top Gun Maverick in 2022, Hitman and Anyone But You in 23, Twisters in 24, and then the TV series Chad Powers and this both come out in 2025. Now, Hitman was a little bit uneven.
They've just announced
a TV
series.
Which I think is actually a great idea.
Yeah.
Right? But Hitman the movie for me was a little bit uneven. I wanted to like it more than I did.
Okay.
Right? It had some really, really good moments, but didn't quite get there for me.
Yeah.
And that was directed by Fincher, right?
No, I don't think...
Was Hitman Fincher?
I don't think Hitman was Fincher.
Oh, no. I'm thinking of... what am I thinking of? The other one that was about the assassin that he did.
Oh, The Killer.
The Killer.
Yeah.
Right. That's the one I'm thinking of.
With Fassbinder.
So... But again, it didn't quite come together for me, Hitman.
Yeah.
Right. So, Anyone But You I haven't seen.
It's a pretty decent, solid rom-com.
Yep.
In the very traditional sense of them.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Guy meets girl, something happens, doesn't work out, miscommunication, stuck in the same spot, which happens to be sister's wedding in Sydney, of all places.
Right. Sydney.
Oh, yeah. It actually was shot in Sydney, and full on, you can see every Sydney landmark is somehow in the film. Right?
They hit all the postcard moments.
Yeah. So it is a pretty decent, pretty good, pretty solid rom-com. And Glen Powell and Sydney Sweeney, who's the opposite, they do a great job.
Again, given a choice when I've got, some content in front of me, rom-com isn't probably a go-to.
I think it was a limited option when I was on a plane.
I get it. Completely get it. I mean, like Chad Powers, I enjoyed.
Yeah.
I thought that was really quite good, and it shows, Glen Powell obviously has a real sense of humour and is quite happy to, skewer himself and otherwise. And I thought there was a lot to like.
Yeah.
In that, Twisters, I think it was an unnecessary remake, if I'm honest. It wasn't a bad film, but just unnecessary. Top Gun Maverick, I mean, all-time classic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So pretty much the peak of his powers, though, when he's kind of like coming into this. Or otherwise it's one of those things where Hollywood tries really, really hard to make their next big thing. And he's certainly part of that right now. And it's either
I think he's on his ascension at the moment.
Yeah, well, it's either going to land for him or it's not.
Yeah.
You don't know which way it's going to come down. And the thing is, movie-going, as we know now, is so different. Like, we're talking about a film where three of the most talked about films, at least in this first half of, 2026, either in the horror, more or less in the horror genre.
Yeah.
Directed by, men in their 20s.
Yep.
Who built up followings on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
By making short movies and otherwise. So it's a different world, right? This is where, a Star Wars film gets released in amongst that. I think has only just climbed over 300 million globally. and is seen as, is this the, kind of the beginning of the end if it hasn't already commenced for Star Wars as a franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just different times.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
If Glen Powell had to come, sort of like 10 years earlier, I think his trajectory looks a little bit different. So I think jury's out if audiences will flock to him like they have in previous years. But I think the whole notion of the star now maybe isn't as strong as it used to be.
Yeah, and you're right. There isn't like probably the last of those big stars like that we've had in the last, to me, is probably The Rock, if you think about it, of that megastar who's reached that ascension and he's like, can't put a foot wrong in the sense of The Rock can don't get me wrong, he's made some not always great, but do you see what I mean? Like we had our Arnies, we had our Slys, we had our Jean-Claudes. Tom Cruise has had his moment in that as well, but you know what I mean? Like Brad Pitt
is still going.
Yeah.
Denzel
always, doesn't matter what Denzel's in.
Yeah.
But it's almost like The Rock was the last of those big action-y guys.
Of the big action. And the thing is, like with The Rock though, like I actually think it's almost over for him, right? Because now he realizes that audiences won't buy him as too much outside of more or less being a good guy.
Yeah.
So, like Black Adam, right? Which is a pretty ordinary film.
Yes.
But him as a bad guy, I don't think audiences like that. They kind of rejected that film.
Yeah.
He won't be making another one of those again.
No, that's true.
What he seemed to have done is then lean into, 4-quadrant movies, same the Family Guy, it's got some action. I can, show off my sort of prowess and otherwise. I mean, I personally was a big fan of the red one. I thought that was a great, Christmas entertainment, family affair. There's still things he's done, but now, he'll do, Jumanji. I don't know if they've done 3 or they'll do 4.
They've filmed it. I think Jumanji 3 has been filmed.
So, and they'll probably do like Jungle Cruise 2. Right?
Yeah.
Like he'll end up just doing a whole heap of these films because that's safe. That's where he's getting validation, and otherwise. So he didn't quite, for me, I know we're massive detour, but we're talking about action heroes. For me, my 2 favourite rock films, right, would be Walking Tall and Welcome to the Jungle. Don't get me wrong, like I enjoyed his presence in, was it the third Mummy? Was it Mummy?
Second one. He was the second one.
He was in the second one, right?
But
and then he had a spin-off in Scorpion King, which was like,
But the VFX in the second Mummy, or the Scorpion King, is so horrible.
Pretty bad.
So horrible. They kind of derailed him for a while.
Yeah.
Right? But you're right. Walking Tall and Welcome to the Jungle are great films.
If I put one above the other, I would say like Welcome to the Jungle. But again, like he's got an amazing cast around him.
Yeah.
Right? Who is so good at being the character that he could bounce off. So Christopher Walken as a bad guy. Seriously, what could possibly go wrong?
Exactly right.
He's amazing. It's just like, yep, you've got my money. Just
Yeah.
When you said Christopher Walken, bad guy. Ewan Bremner as kind of, comic relief and otherwise, incredible. But then Sean William Scott.
He's great
in the sort of like almost like the buddy cop trope that they're playing off, right? Just amazing, right?
Yeah.
But Glen Powell, let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I wish him the best. He's doing. I think he's making some good choices.
I agree. And you know what? In all fairness about The Running Man, he's one of the best things about this film.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I love his performance in that, and like I buy it. Like I root for that. I love how antagonistic he is to any level of authority. He's just caring about humanity. He's almost like he's sort of like the avatar in this world, in this dystopian world that's more and more controlled by machines and algorithms and all the rest of it. He's literally, holding the candle of humanity, right? And all the choices that he made are really through a very human lens. I really enjoyed him, if nothing else. Let's get into some of the other cast. Josh Brolin, again, what a late-stage career this guy's having. Absolutely incredible, right? So he appears in June 2, or June Part 2, is that, what's the best way of saying that?
Doesn't really matter.
Right? And then the second season of Outer Range in 2024. Then he's in Weapons, Wake Up Dead Man, and this in 2025.
Yeah.
Right? And then June 3 or whatever the hell it's called comes out this year.
Yes.
Right? And, no doubt he's in another handful of big films. So, very much in demand.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I've always liked him, and maybe that goes back to my fondness of his character in Goonies.
I think that's mine the same, where he kind of did the Goonies, disappeared for a bit, came back, it's like, oh, Josh Brolin's here. Yeah, nice.
But it's so funny, isn't it? Because, like, you know, I don't know, what was he, 16, 17, 18, when he did that. But to your point, had to disappear for, like, you know, a decade, maybe 15. And not to say disappeared, but it wasn't necessarily in the, you know, the zeitgeist of the public consciousness in a way that he is now. Because he just had to kind of age into himself and age into the actor. And now it's just like he's compelling in everything that he does. Yeah. He's formidable. I mean, I loved him in, you know, Sicario. I loved him in No Country for Old Men. I mean, there's so many like incredible films that he ends up talking about a guy who's making good choices.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Glen Powell could, you know, do well to study some of the choices that Josh.
Well, hopefully they had a few conversations to the side between takes. You never know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this guy playing Killian, Coleman Domingo, almost stole the show from me. He is so good as the host, and he's got so little to do, right? Where the Schwarzenegger version really focused on Killian, right?
Yeah,
What's interesting is that the guy actually was an ex-game show host, and it's incredible. But this guy, he lights up the screen. He doesn't have much to do, but every time he's like, you can't take your eyes away from him. I'm like he's incredible. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about his career, where he is. He appears in Rustin, where he was nominated for Best Actor Oscar. Sing Sing, where he was also nominated for the Best Actor Oscar the following year. He does The Color of Purple in 2023, has a small role in The Electric State, which I still haven't seen because by reports it's a steamy pile of shit.
Yep.
He voices the cowardly lion in Wicked for good, and this in 2025. And then in 2026, another film I haven't seen, my daughters have seen it, he's in Michael, playing Joseph Joe Jackson.
Oh, yes, that's right. He's the father, isn't he? Yeah.
But I mean, like, I almost want to do a bit more of a deep dive about this guy. Where did he come from? Like, how is he so amazing and, like, just kind of like, you know, I don't know, like, put it up.
I think he's been
35 points every game that he's in, like, with movies that he's appearing.
But I think if you, like Coleman Domingo, he's been around for a while and he's been in various bits and pieces. I'm pretty sure he was in The Walking Dead for a couple of seasons. No, the spin-off of that, for the whatever the first spin-off of The Walking Dead was, the one that was on the West Coast as compared to the East Coast. He was in that for a couple of seasons. Interestingly, and I was going to mention this, I'll mention it now, he filmed all his scenes in 2 days.
What?
Because it was just him in the studio. So he did all his scenes in 2 days and then stole the show.
Amazing. So let's talk about who else is in this. So we've got Jamie Lawson. She does This and Sinners in 2025. Lee Pace, well known for his role as Brother Day in the Apple TV series Foundation. He does this in 2025. William H. Macy appears in Ricky Stenicki and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes in 2024. Does this in Train Dreams in 2025. Katie O'Brien is in season 3 of The Mandalorian. Okay. If you remember her. Has a small role in Twisters with Glen Powell in 2024, and she has a small role in Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning in 25.
Okay.
Michael Cera has a small role in Barbie in 2023.
Yes.
He appears in the satirical Super Bowl ad for CeraVe, which was phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
All right.
And then he does this. He does this and The Phoenician Scheme in 2025.
There you go.
So, pretty incredible cast,
yeah.
Right? And that's harkens back to my comment really at the top when we're starting to break down the film. On paper, this really should have been probably better than it was.
Yeah.
So, should we jump over to The Long Walk?
Go for it.
So, not as much to talk about here.
Yep.
Right? The director, again, you know, a serious talent. I wouldn't actually put him in the same. I don't know. Would you? I mean, you'd say that Edgar Wright's an auteur, wouldn't you?
I would put Edgar Wright up there. I've been a big fan of Edgar since his original TV show Spaced, which if you've never seen that,
I haven't seen it.
You should find Spaced. It's him, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost. It's where they first started. It's a British TV show. There's only 2 seasons, like a lot of TV shows. Right. You could literally sit there and pick a film reference in every single scene. and a camera angle and a shot. And because of your history, the similar to mine of what you will pick them every single time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I should check that out.
Yeah.
Is it BBC, I imagine?
Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
BBC. Yeah. You'll find it somewhere, but it's amazing.
So the contrast here is that, Francis Lawrence, again, a very well regarded and established filmmaker, more commercial sensibilities.
Yep.
So he did 4 out of the 5 Hunger Games movies.
Yes, I read that. I knew he'd done the last 2 in the main trilogy because they split the last one into 2.
The only one he didn't do was the first one.
Oh, right. Okay.
So he's also known for Constantine, which I still like. I haven't seen it for a while. I want to go back and revisit it. But
I actually watched it earlier this year again.
How did it hold up?
I loved it again.
Yeah.
I was just like,
I really liked it.
It's dark. It's gritty. It's still powerful in that sense. It's still got the same, intense supernatural.
I'd put it in a category. Don't hate me on this. Put it in a category of like The Crow, like the original Brandon Lee one, right?
Yeah.
Because again, it's kind of like an anti-hero. There's obviously that, connection with, the deceased. There's other supernatural elements going on in it. And it's refreshing to see a world that isn't all sort of, bright or muted colours like Marvel or DC or, it's just really dark.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's like, it's rainy, everything's dark, and, characters are dressed in black. It's like...
But it's bleak. It's got that not dystopian. It's got that supernatural fear of, and it's that simple devil, heaven and earth,
Yeah.
Devil and God. That's it. And the archangels. It's really good.
So, and then he also did another film that I'm quite fond of, I Am Legend.
Yeah.
And one of the most harrowing sort of, pet deaths, the dog scene.
Yeah.
Whatever. Still breaks my heart just thinking about it because I'm a dog guy.
Yeah.
So, we've got, Cooper Hoffman, I think, as I mentioned in this, who's Philip Seymour Hoffman's son.
Yep.
I think probably was a Licorice Pizza with Paul Thomas Anderson is probably his most well-known film. But he's done a handful of things in between. And then there's the young gentleman, and for whatever reason, who plays his best mate, who's walking along side by side with him, whose name, for whatever reason, is
David Johnson.
Thank you. So he appears in back-to-back Stephen King adaptations with this and The Life of Chuck.
Oh, okay.
So The Life of Chuck came out the year before, and then does this. Yeah, he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I think real talent to watch. And great voice for radio, much better than mine. Just that deep, rich...
Oh, yeah, he's really, maybe that was part of his appeal, but as the McVreigh's character, he's amazing in this. Yeah. He's probably one of the best things.
I agree. And then, of course, our boy, Mark Hamill.
Yes.
So, obviously, for absolutely everyone who's still alive on this planet today, he'll always be Luke Skywalker.
Exactly right.
Sort of like the OG. And the voice of the Joker as well, which he did across 26 titles, including video games, feature films, and 60 individual TV episodes.
Yeah.
And what a voice, right?
Well, again, the only reason, he was of an age now. The only reason he retired from being the Joker is because Kevin Conroy passed as Batman. So he said, well, if he goes, there's no point in me. He's my Batman. I'm his Joker. That's part of the reason he retired from being the Joker.
You're my Huckleberry, Jeff.
Okay. Ooh, I'm blushing.
Okay. So, on paper, again, like you think, oh, this will be, a nice little B movie and I'll catch it on streaming, right?
Yeah.
Well, invariably I did, but I think it's better than a B movie.
Oh, yeah.
It really is. And it kind of makes sense now, you think, with, Francis, Lawrence. Like Dystopia, he goes, that's kind of my thing. Right? Hunger Games, I Am Legend. He's been on this, merry-go-round, 5 times now, right?
Yeah.
So he knows his space inside and out, and therefore, how to come at it from different perspectives and otherwise. And I think what a marriage between, the captain of the ship, as a director is usually, referred to on a film set, and the material.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe no mistake in terms of how it actually turned out, where you think, Edgar Wright, obviously the only like true action film that he probably did was Baby Driver.
Yeah.
I know there's elements of that in some of his other films and otherwise. But in terms of, Dystopia and otherwise, yeah, okay, arguably you could say, World's End and what have you. But in terms of, really existing in this space and really thinking about, again, the marriage of, material and sensibilities.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite there. I don't know. I mean, I'm speculating.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, like I usually ask each of these films, let's go back to The Running Man.
Yep.
Did you find an Australian connection to The Running Man?
Yes.
Go for it.
So there is a character called Donahue who was one of the hunters. Did you find this connection?
No, I love this.
Okay. So do you remember the original Animal Kingdom, the Aussie film?
Oh.
So you've obviously seen the original Animal Kingdom, the original one shot here in Melbourne.
I think it was directed by, is it David McCod or Michaud?
Yeah, Michaud, yeah.
And Ben Mendelsohn is like more or less the big bad, and then also Jackie Weaver is the mum. Yeah. Incredible film.
Yeah. So the story focuses around a young kid who's the 17-year-old kid in the film and Ben Mendelsohn's the one having a go at him about that inside of the criminal family, right? His name is James Freshville. Excuse me, James, for annihilating that. He's the character Donahue, one of the hunters in the film.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I missed that.
Yeah.
Completely.
So clearly he's moved to the States, or he's probably trying to do there, whether he's, try to turn it however long. He's obviously looks dramatically different from a 17-year-old up-and-coming Australian actor.
Yeah.
He's tall, but it's in the best way I found to recognise it when they're in the cockpit and they turn around. He's not the one who's the pilot. He's the guy sitting towards the back.
Oh,
that's
Okay.
So, James Freshville.
Right.
Sorry about that, James. But there you go. There is an Aussie connection.
I've got another one.
Okay.
And I don't want to butcher this gentleman's surname, but Paul Mackless.
Okay.
The film's editor.
Oh, really?
He's worked with Edgar Wright multiple times.
Yeah, okay. Fantastic.
Boom.
Okay.
So two
there. One each. Excellent. Couldn't find anyone for The Long Walk.
Yeah, I came up with zero.
Yeah.
So let's talk about real life inspiration. Well, very clearly, both of these are based on Stephen King novels. So, Jeff, as you mentioned, the original draft of The Running Man was written in just 1 week in February 1973 in a stadium trailer during a school vacation, right? Wasn't published until 9 years later in 1982, right?
Yeah.
And again, The Long Walk, as you mentioned as well, written in across 66, 67 when he was just 19, wasn't published, more than, 13 to, 12 to 13 years later in 1979, right? So let's jump into some of the trivia and fun facts.
Okay.
Let's start with The Running Man.
Okay. What have I got?
What do you got?
All right. I've got a few things here. So actually, I've got a few casting things that I found, if you wanted to start with. So before Glen Powell was cast, when Edgar Wright was first interested in making this, and he's always wanted to remake the film because he's actually not a fan of the original thing because he was a fan of the book first.
Oh, the book.
He'd long read the book long before he saw the film.
Okay.
And he'd been disappointed in the sense that he was a Stephen King fan, Richard Bachman fan.
Mm-hmm.
So back then he wanted to reconnect with his Scott Pilgrim actor of Chris Evans.
Oh.
So he wanted Chris Evans for the main role to play Ben Richards. At the same time, Ryan Gosling met with him before he was cast. Chris Hemsworth apparently met with Edgar Wright to play it as well. That would have been an easy Aussie connection for us there if that had happened. But he only cast Glen Powell after seeing him in Hitman during his development phase. So,
and you know what? I think out of all those actors, and I can actually envision all of them actually in the role,
Mm.
I think they made the right choice of Glen Powell.
Yeah.
I really do.
Potentially those other three guys I mentioned might have been too big to take that role. Do you know what I mean? You know how we've discussed that sometimes a Tom Cruise film is you can't get Tom Cruise as a character because he's Tom Cruise?
I think the one I would have liked least would have been Chris Evans.
I would have thought Hemsworth probably for me because he's become – and also he's too – Chris Hemsworth is too big now. I mean, the guy –
He's like – no, but you think Arnie in the first one, like that's kind of what makes it so cool. But again, like because the first one's just so different.
Yeah.
Like there's no gladiators, so like does he actually need to be that jacked? And when you're getting, stalked with an inch of your life and, cameras flying, and tracking your every movement. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one.
But I guess but you're right there because also the difference in this when there's the hunters is they're just probably standard well-trained special forces guys, right?
Yeah.
They're not built like Arnie was against Jesse Ventura and all the other blokes who are big built dudes, right?
Yeah.
So this is an everyman against slightly better trained men, if that makes sense, right? So anyway, I've got a few other notes about the Running Man. So, the Arnie cameo, which is in this, which is obviously his face on the new dollar bills.
Yeah.
Apparently that's supposed to show as an alternate reality that Arnie could become president because he obviously is unable to formally do it in the US. So that was part of the reason of putting him in on that.
Well, I read something because apparently for the celebration of America's 250th birthday, I think Trump wanted to print $250 banknotes.
Right.
And he wanted to have, big surprise, his own face on those banknotes. But apparently, and I don't know, this is kind of half-assed, apparently it's, I don't know if illegal is the right term or there's no precedent for it. I don't know. I think it's not allowed.
Yeah.
Because he's a living president, right?
Ah, okay.
So it's only deceased presidents can actually go on banknotes. So
there you go.
Maybe they can lobby for that.
Oh, well, I wonder if Arnie's dead in this universe then.
Or maybe Arnie's dead in this one. Or they've changed the legislation or the rules governing governing that.
Yes. So speaking of Arnie, Glen actually went to him and got his blessing to play Ben Richards.
Respect.
So good on him for doing that. Stephen King has also given the film a glowing reference. Edgar Wright gave him a private screening and he did enjoy it because it was a more faithful adaptation than the 87 version.
Yeah.
A couple of quick other things. One of Ben Richards' aliases in this is Mr. Springer. In Swedish, Springer translates to running or run.
Oh.
So he's Mr. Runner.
Nice. Okay.
There you go. Now, apparently, to throw the same name in, Tom Cruise actually called Glen Powell when they were talking about this to give him advice on what he should do before shooting. Powell recalls, Tom rang me to give me the lowdown and what I thought would be a 10-minute call lasted 2.5 hours. He basically told me how not to die. He also gave me running lessons. He said, you should film yourself running because you don't look as cool as you think you do. And you know what? He was right. That's what Glen Powell's quoted as saying with regards to that. So Tom Cruise taught him how to run good. I
actually love that because as I think a lot of people would attest to, Tom Cruise is one of the greatest on-screen runners of all time.
100%.
Right? So in a really safe set of hands, and good on Mr. Cruise for reaching out to Mr. Powell. So obviously they formed a really good bond without making Top Gun Maverick.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, sorry, I have one more for me. So in the dressing room scene that you mentioned before, that whole tight sequence in there, when they get their jumpsuits, there are other jumpsuits with actors' names on them. So there's Skarsgård, Bates, Spacek, and Lloyd.
Oh, so the actors who played characters in film adaptations of his work.
Yeah, so references to Bill Skarsgård in It, Kathy Bates in Misery, Sissy Spacek in Carrie, and Danny Lloyd in The Shining.
That's incredible.
That's it.
I love that Easter egg.
Yeah.
That's great.
Which you have to do that. So there's probably a couple other things. The only thing, but the big thing was, which again might attest to some of the costs, is Edgar wanted to go as practical as possible.
Okay.
So they built full-size sets and used as much practical effects as possible to minimise the use of CGI, which obviously might have attributed for some of the costs. So
Look, I've got nothing to add. I'll jump into The Long Walk.
Yep.
I'll tee off the first trivia item and then I'll throw to you.
Cool.
As the trivia master. So David Johnson and Jordan Gonzalez were 32 years old, playing Peter McVries and Richard Harkness respectively. Characters no older than 18 in the book.
Yeah.
So personally, I always get a kick out of that because, being kind of like kids of the 80s and 90s, we had a steady diet of high school films where, the lead characters are like, deep in their 20s or early.
Yeah.
Otherwise. So, as I said, purely from that perspective, I actually love that.
Yeah. That's a good one.
What have you got?
All right. So The Long Walk has been talked about being made into a film since the late 80s, right?
Okay.
So George Romero was considered to direct the first adaptation.
Oh.
He apparently, in 1988, but that never came to fruition. Then Frank Darabont secured the rights into the 2007. He was going to adapt it, but that never went anywhere. And then New Line acquired the rights and got James Vanderbilt, who has written and directed a couple of our other
Zodiac.
Yep, and he was involved with White House Down.
Okay.
To produce it. And then a year after that, in 2019, Andre Overdahl, who's the Swedish guy who's done a couple of horror films, I think, he was going to direct it until we get to 2023 when they announced Francis Lawrence was going to do it. So, yeah. So it's been through iteration after iteration in various forms since the mid-80s, the late 80s. So, yeah, that was interesting.
Okay.
Just as a reference to you, because I know these numbers, you like numbers, fuck is used 286 times in this film, just so you know.
Outstanding.
Yeah. Figured that was an interesting point to use.
I'd love to know where that kind of ranks in the pantheon of using the F word.
Yeah. It's actually not even in the top 20, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's some that are like...
There's obviously like Scorsese and Tarantino probably occupy 6 of the top 10.
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah, it was really, because I was looking for it going, is this, because I remember watching it going, they use that a lot. And then looking it up and going, okay, it's not there. Yeah, that's fine. So, talked about Cooper Hoffman, Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, playing the role of Pat Garrity. He actually said, he quoted as taking a character who's lost his own father at a young age, similar to himself. Yeah. He said, when your trauma is on display for the world, there's no actually hiding it. I'm like, I might as well talk about it, or I might as well put it into something, because if I keep hiding it and running away from it, that's not fair to anyone else who's gone through that. I'm here to display this person and this experience as honestly as I can, and hopefully someone else watches it and goes, he sees me, he understands me, and that's, in my opinion, the only reason to do any sort of art. So I thought that was quite good. Near the end of the film, when they walk past a red car that's on fire for no reason and no one really mentions it at all, that's actually a reference to Christine.
Yeah, it has to be.
Exactly. So they did that. This is the 8th film that Francis Lawrence has directed that's based on a book. I Am Legend, Constantine, 5 Hunger Games films.
Is a go-to IP guy.
Yeah, exactly. The big one, which I think you may have mentioned this as well, is that in the book, the boys have to walk at 4 miles per hour.
Right.
But even Stephen King actually told the filmmakers to make it 3 miles per hour because 4 miles per hour is, you can't continue that pace. It's too fast. 3 miles per hour is more of a standard walking speed.
Especially when you're doing, 50 miles, whatever it is they're doing a day.
Oh, yeah. And I did have that written somewhere, which I will tell you because you'll like this reference. Okay, so someone actually worked out in the movie. So the boys did indeed do lots of walking. They walked personally between 15 and 32 miles per day during production, right? So in total, they walked 260 miles. Obviously, we're talking America. Yeah. Not that much less than the actual 350, which is walked in the novel.
Right.
In the movie, though, the characters walk 400 miles, which for someone who hasn't worked out we're Australians is the equivalent of walking from Melbourne to Canberra.
It's insane.
So there you go.
It's a fair distance.
And this film was shot entirely sequentially.
Oh.
So they actually shot it sequentially.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating. So have you got anything else?
The last one I've got, is there's an alternate ending of this film that's only included in the DVD release, which shows Pete choosing not to kill the Major when he asks for the carbine.
Spoiler alert.
Yep, sorry. He drops the rifle he's been given and walks off down the road, and then a screen of text reveals that he begins sending money every month to Hank's widow,
Right.
Ray's mother,
Right.
and Art's grandmother, and he also sends Art's cross and rosary back, which Ray gave him at the end, to send it back to the grandmother.
I'm going to say, I like the one in the movie.
Yeah. Which, again, I believe is different to the novel. So,
okay.
Yeah. That's probably everything I've got, basically, for some trivia and bits and pieces.
So let me jump in. I've only got two things, right?
Yep.
You mentioned that Stephen King said, hey, drop it down to 3 miles per hour. That's more realistic. So apparently Google Maps is roughly the same speed, 3 miles per hour, and is when it's giving walking directions to the average pedestrian. So it says, hey, it's 11 minutes away.
Oh, right, okay.
12 minutes away. It's using 3 miles per hour as that calculation.
Okay.
That's distance. So
all right.
The other fun fact that I had is, so in the film there are 50 walkers, one from each state.
Yep.
In the book, there were 100 walkers and almost no mention of state affiliations, with the notable exception of the protagonist, Ray Garrity, played by Cooper Hoffman, who's from Maine, where Long Walk is held.
Which is also Stephen King's
and
state.
I think Stephen King kind of writes in that there has to be Maine reference or some Maine, on location shooting for a lot of his, adaptations that make their way to the screen, be it TV or...
One other point that I remembered is because of the nature of when he wrote this film and when it was released, actually as well, is that that's why all the vehicles, the military outfits, the weapons they use are all true 1970s actual stuff.
Okay.
So the M16s that the soldiers kill, the rifles, they're all 1970s stuff. The pistol that the Major / Colonel / Mark Hamill carries is a specific 1970s weapon. And all the cars and the tanks are all 1970s Army's vehicles.
That's neat.
Yeah.
I
just did that as a design choice to fit in within the actual novel's world.
And it seems to work quite well because it's not a world where I didn't want, and maybe I would have felt it a little bit more jarring. And maybe that's what the slickness and or whatever of some of the tech in the Running Man versus the Long Walk. I didn't want anything too contemporary, right? So I like this. Hey, this is probably the same machinery that we've had for 50 years.
Yeah.
Add more of that, grimy, lived-in, aged quality to it.
Yeah.
I think it felt a little bit more appropriate to the world and
I agree.
So before we kind of get into maybe some of our favourite shots, I just wanted to say the whole concept of this televised death game, right? Or survival as entertainment. That trope, the human as prey hunt story, if you will, has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
It really started actually with a 1932 film called The Most Dangerous Game.
Okay.
Right, which is based on a short story by a gentleman by the name of Richard Connell that came out in 1924. It's about a big game hunter shipwrecked on an island where he's hunted by a Russian aristocrat. Wealthy predator, isolated arena, human quarry, sport as moral corruption was really kind of, the formula of the theme. And it's been repeated time and time again, right? So you look at The Running Man and a bridge really from the most important game to where The Running Man landed, arguably is Robert Sheckley's The Prize of Peril from 1958. So that story is about a contestant hunted by killers on a televised reality show. Decades before modern reality TV. It was adapted as, you're so much better at pronunciation than I am, Jeff. So I've got something in German. So it was adapted as Das Millionspiel in 1970 and Le Prix de Danger in 1983.
There you go.
Right? So really quite a close premise to what The Running Man is, right? So another another kind of, DNA of influence is The 10th Victim from 1965, right? Which is based, going back to Sheckley, who did The Prize of Peril, on his 1953 story, The Seventh Victim, right? Imagines a future where a government-endorsed program called The Big Hunt turns killing into an organised contest between hunters and victims, right? So also, arguably, maybe that's where they got a little bit of the Purge inspiration,
Possibly,
and otherwise. And then, of course, really the descendants from a lot of those early influences, most notably, I guess, in the last 20, 25 years, have been the Hunger Games and Squid Game.
Yep.
So the one that's not on there that I'm going to put on there, just because I love it to death, is Hard Target.
I was sitting here thinking, I'm waiting for him to say Hard Target somewhere. He's going to throw it in.
It's got to be there.
Yeah.
JCVT at his best, right?
Oh.
And a mullet from heaven.
Yeah.
Right? And the thing is, I wish that film could be re-examined because, some of the action set pieces in that by John Woo, it's some of his best work.
Yeah,
seriously.
yeah. Exactly.
Just incredible. It's no... it's no hard boiled or sort of like The Killer or Better Tomorrow and otherwise, but he's got some absolute gold in there.
Oh yeah, totally.
I don't know. So had to mention that. So let's get into maybe some of the shots that we like before we actually do the final evaluation of the scorecard.
Sure thing.
Happy with that, Jeff?
Yeah, of course.
So why don't we do this? Let's contain it to 3 favourite shots.
Yep.
For the running man, and then we do 3 favourite shots for the long walk.
Yep.
You go, I go.
After you.
That?
Yeah.
So I think I mentioned this previously, right? That my favourite sequence in The Running Man is where he enters the TV studio, he starts doing, the performance test to work out where he's going to be placed or if he's appropriate to, make the cut to be placed in one of these TV games.
Yeah.
If I had to narrow it down to kind of, a smaller, shot or sequence, is where he's entering the game show arena, right? This is Glen Powell as Ben Richards, right? Just, it's just, as I said, that whole sequence and then sort of that frame where he comes in, really is grist to the mill. That's everything that the movie's about just there,
yeah.
Right? In a trailer, that's it,
yeah,
right? And then just cue some, some hunting and, visceral deaths and otherwise, and that's the movie in a nutshell.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a good one. I do like that one. Coleman Domingo's Bobby Thompson, as we've already spoken about. Every single scene he's in is amazing because he just makes it. He's the center of the satire in a sense because he's arrogant, over the top, brash. He's charismatic. He's got that full showman energy, but he can go off the hook a bit, and he just does it. And even the way he ends at the end where he's just like, check my contract, paragraph 29C, whatever he goes, yeah, I'm out. And he just walks off. Here I am. I do my bit. He comes in, causes chaos, says what he has to say, brings the audience on his side because he's amazing in that where he twists everything that Ben Richards has done. He's incredible.
And I actually love that as well because, he's not buying into, the ideology, aspect that Josh Brolin's character is, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I just work here, man.
Yeah.
Right? It's entertainment.
Yeah.
You know what? And this is either above or below my pay grade, either way. I'm done.
Exactly right.
That's great.
Yeah.
Again, not a single shot, but every single shot where, Glen Powell's Ben Richards is running.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom Cruise.
Exactly. Yes. He clearly gave some good advice.
I'd like to see a supercut just of him just running and doing that. And maybe even, against Tom Cruise, right? And
that would be very interesting.
Hey,
yes.
Who did it best, right?
Yes.
But, I don't think it's quite on Cruise's level, but it's some really good running from Powell in this movie.
Can I throw in one? I know you said 3. Sure. I've got one that's also I liked because it's a funny line, a bit of Edgar Wright humor, is when he's trying to escape the hunters in the hotel and he's hanging off. Is it the YMCA or whatever it is? And he's hanging off. And as he does, it goes doink and the letter falls down and he goes, why? And it's the letter Y. It's actually the letter Y that falls, and he screams Y. Sorry.
Gold.
That's pure Edgar Wright.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's a great one. So kick us off for the long walk, Jeff.
Yeah, well, again, it's a lot simpler. It's not as visually stylistic as The Running Man is. So, but I think it's the boys lining up at the beginning, at the very start, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's starting to build attention. We know it's about to kick off, but it's just that's when they're reduced to numbers. They've received their badges, their things. They know exactly who they are. They're walking into that ritual. They all understand that from this point on, no one can escape. This is it. It's just simple. We know what brutality is coming. It communicates the premise, which is 3 words: walk or die. That's it.
I love it. So variation on that is Mark Hamill's major character laying out the rules of the game, right? So not exactly, like a Alec Baldwin, Glen Gary, Glen Ross, completely, scene stealing otherwise. But I love how compact and efficient the delivery of that. And then everyone's, really clear about what you're about to observe over the next 100 or so minutes. So I love him, setting the table with the rules.
I do like as well that he never takes his glasses off.
Yeah, same.
I think it's perfect for his character.
He needs that armor, and dehumanizes him somewhat as well.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
exactly right. Yeah, but I love it's that, and then there's all the open road sequences and just the boys' bodies breaking down, which you wouldn't think. You just they're just walking, but you forget they're walking 24/7 constantly.
Yeah, that's right.
They are gonna, stop and go to the bathroom in the middle of the road. They are going to twist ankles. They're going to roll things. Shoes are going to split, all that kind of stuff. It's just, it's that and the moment that as soon as something like that happens, particularly after that first brutal one that I mentioned, someone's ending at this point.
Yeah.
Right? It's the power of that. It's, and because it's tense, as I said, from that first brutal moment, it's tense. But then as you start to see those failures happen within people, it just elevates your tension.
So true. I mean, I think really, really great kind of call out for those shots. So let's tie this in a bow, Jeff. Let's do our scorecard evaluation of the 2 films to determine who won the rematch.
Okay.
So we've already talked premise.
Yep.
I'll lead off. You go the next category.
Sounds good to me.
So concept. So I would say The Long Walk has the cleaner, crueler concept, keep walking or die, or walk or die, as you eloquently put it.
Yep.
It's almost absurdly simple, and the simplicity gives it an allegorical force. The Running Man has a bigger playground, but also the messy one. I'm going to give concept to The Long Walk.
Okay. Let's go to the next category as action and spectacle. Okay. This is the obvious edge where Edgar Wright's film is built as a high-velocity televised survival gauntlet. Even the mixed reviews tended to credit it as its pace and energy, but the action is unsurpassed in terms of these 2 films. So we have to give that category to The Running Man.
Agreed. Next category for me, I've named psychological dread. The Long Walk lives on attrition, despair, male bonding, and the terror of inevitability. Critics were notably stronger on its grim emotional endurance and The Running Man's thematic depth. I'm going to give psychological dread to The Long Walk.
Alrighty. The next category we've done is called satirical bite. So I think in this, even though they're both TV televised, but the TV show premise gives The Running Man its built-in satire of spectatorships and ratings and charisma we mentioned, but also the way it commodifies violence, right? Even when the film softens the novel's weight, the media circus angle gives it all its political surface. So we have to give the satirical bite to The Running Man.
Agreed. Emotional core is our next category, Jeff. The Long Walk seems to have landed more powerfully because the boys' relationships and collapse are the whole point. It's less interested in set pieces than it is in exhaustion, tenderness, cruelty, and the stripping away of self. It's a very easy win for The Long Walk.
Agreed. Now let's talk world building. So The Running Man has the bigger, broader dystopian canvas. It's what producers, viewers, assassins, systems, branding, mass public performance. The Long Walk, obviously, given it's literally one road, is narrower just purely by design. So in terms of world building, it's The Running Man.
The Running Man. Our next category is formal purity. So this is where there's a bit of separation. The long walk feels closer to a nightmare equation. One rule, one road, one impossible test.
Yep.
Right? As you mentioned, walk
Yes.
or die. That gives a severity and unity that Running Man just doesn't have.
That's
It's
true.
like, hang on, which key idea is the true north here? Right? There's too much going on. For formal purity, the long walk.
Alrighty. So let's talk critical reception. This gap is meaningful because The Long Walk sits at 71 on Metacritic with generally favourable reviews, whereas The Running Man has landed more mixed with 61%
Right.
on Rotten Tomatoes and a lower 56 Metascore number. So it's reflected in that review aggregation.
Yep.
So from a critical reception, we give it to The Long Walk.
Overall impact, The Running Man may be the louder film, but The Long Walk appears to have landed as the more haunting and critically respected adaptation. It feels less like a fun package and more like a serious Stephen King endurance nightmare. You have to give overall impact to The Long Walk.
Correct.
So tallying up the evaluation, where did we land, Jeff?
So premise, draw. The Long Walk, 6 categories. The Running Man, 3. So in terms of whether we're running or walking, the Long Walk wins the rematch. Where do you feel about that?
I 100% agree. So The Long Walk for me is the better film, the one that I enjoyed watching more. Glen Powell, I think, is incredible in The Running Man, does everything that's been asked of him, really carries that film for the majority on his own shoulders.
Yep.
So no small feat. There's, as I said, that sort of is a 7 to 10 minute flourish at the start of the film, I think is almost unassailable cinema. But The Long Walk is just better.
Yeah, I have to agree. Again, as an Edgar Wright fan for a long time, I had very high hopes for this film. The trailers had sold it to me, admittedly, as well, which I know that's what they're designed to do. But I think, as I said, it was a little bit over long. Could have been, like you said, there are some really tight, taut moments. The action sequences are good in some sections, but it probably was just a little bit bloated in terms of time and scale in it.
Yeah.
Whereas The Long Walk is just a simple, tight, taut, pressurized thriller. And I thought it really came across.
And my love of the 1987 Schwarzenegger movie, hasn't dimmed after all these years. And it's got so many amazing lines.
Yeah.
Like, Dynamo, what's the matter, bitch? Why aren't you laughing?
Yeah.
This is nothing funny but a dickless mo with a battery shoved up his ass. I mean, like, the Running Man with Glen Powell, it kind of lacks that humour. I know there's like some small little nods and otherwise, and the Wire one I think is a great shout by you, but the over the top nature of so many aspects of that first one.
Oh yeah.
And also, like I love me like a Prison Break sequence, right?
Yeah.
It clearly wasn't in the book or whatever, but it was just awesome.
Yeah.
Perimeter deactivated.
Yeah. And then it's like, run.
And also like, the score surprisingly in The Running Man and the Schwarzenegger one, like just kind of like sits with you. There's like, the 80s synths beats and whatever. And it was just, simple, basic, pared back. There's a lot to like about it.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think we're in agreement. The Long Walk wins the rematch.
That's right.
That was fun.
That was fun.
It was good to do something contemporary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes me feel young again.
Excellent. All right.
Until next time.
Until next time. Thank you, mate.
Thanks, Jeff.
Cheers.